Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love being quarantined.
You love being quarantined. You love being
kinda. Kind of, sort of. There's a bitter sweetness to it, you know. Staying home, relaxing. You know, there's less responsibilities in general. It's like, do I have to go out? Nope, can't go out this weekend. Don't have to worry about it. Nothing to do.
Well, you know what isn't bittersweet, Ted?
Our sweet patrons.
They are. They're only sweet. And so our show isn't possible without the help from our patrons. And so a quick shout out to the 15 of you guys. It's Daniel, David, Jason, Joseph, Justin, Kyle, Lewis, Mike, Dominic, Phil, Rob, Robert, Russ, and Sean. This one, I have to give a specific shout out to my buddy Phil. Phil has been was one of the original patrons of the show, and he gave me the tagline that I use at the end of the show about throwing the card back into the fiery chasm from whence it came. And so, Phil, thank you so much for being a patron. It's always a pleasure to have you help keep the lights on. And I will give this shout out to our patrons too. If anybody is on Facebook and wants to friend request me so I can get to know you a little bit better, I'd be happy to accept a friend request from anybody who's a patron of the show on Facebook. I can't say anything about Ted or Grant on Facebook, but I would be happy to have you as a friend.
Hey, drop us a message. I'm always free for a chat.
Right. And most of us are free for a game. But having said that, it's time. I wish we could spend the whole show talking about our patrons. Maybe that's later on, but I wanted to invite on a very special guest, somebody who is one of the hosts of probably the gold standard of podcasts in the community, and a podcast that I respect a whole bunch. You can see over there, Cardboard of the Rings. And so I wanted to welcome Chad Garlinghouse to the show. Chad, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Dave. I'm really happy to be back. Looking forward to this. This is very exciting.
Right. Maybe I won't be so stupid this time around, right? Like,
I'm just saying, if you're defending with Haldir, you're doing it wrong. It's just something has gone terribly wrong.
Yeah, it's a fair argument, Chad. I support.
You know what I'm realizing? So I'm Italian, and with the video thing, you guys get to see my hand motions I do during the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
That no one else, because I'm very Italian. I do my hands a lot, but no one ever gets to see it. But now you'll actually get to see it.
Yeah. And Cardboard of the Rings, a quick shout out. You guys, you and the First Age, the people who were predated you guys, you know, you've been around since the game really opened. So, you know, when we think, I think a month before or something, right?
Yeah.
So,
I wasn't, but yeah.
Right. So Cardboard of the Rings is definitely a legacy within the community, and you know, it's almost a little. I almost get a little bit starstruck when you guys decide to come on the show and stuff like that. Not that I should be necessarily, but you know, you guys definitely
shouldn't be.
but we are aware of the time it takes, so we appreciate you setting aside the time.
Oh yeah, no, that's no problem. That's no problem.
Well, this week has been crazy for you guys. You guys did your episode 162, I think, and then you
Yes, which should be out shortly because Aaron, I mean, he has nothing to do, so
Well,
he'll get that edited pretty quick.
Yeah, everyone's got a little bit more time on their hands,
right? So if your wife listens to the show, thank you so much to Mrs. Garlinghouse. That was very good. And so, no,
she barely listens to me talk about it. She isn't gonna.
She barely listens to you in her regular life, let alone on a podcast.
Her eyes just glaze over when I start talking, and she's like,
Does she even play Lord of the Rings? I think we talked about this a little bit on the last show we had.
No, I've been constantly trying to find a game that all of my family would like to play together that isn't, you know,
Monopoly or something.
Yeah,
stupid.
we don't play Monopoly.
Yeah,
But we play Catan, which is fine. We play Ticket to Ride, which is fine. But I actually just got Villainous, Disney's Villainous.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a winner. My wife played. She was Queen of Hearts and had fun. So I'm like, okay, good.
That's good.
So,
Is that a cooperative or is that competitive?
Nope.
Okay.
You're trying to see who is the evilest of them all. There's a tagline.
Yeah, there's a singular winner, but no, that's a good pick too. I'd recommend any Codenames games are really good for any quantity of people generally.
I went to,
but no Lord of the Rings. She's watched the movies.
That's good. That's enough, right?
General awareness.
Yep.
What you need to do is put headphones on her head and just constantly repeat the audiobooks to just try and indoctrinate her.
Yeah. While she's sleeping.
Yeah.
One game I picked up, and I don't want to spend forever talking about games that aren't Lord of the Rings, but one of the games that I picked up for my family was Bob Ross, which I thought was going to be stupid, but it's probably one of the best games that you can buy at Target. I love it.
Totally chill.
It's totally chill. Actually, that's what you're doing. You're trying to chill out is what you're trying to do. And it's happy little trees and happy accident.
Right.
And so if you need a good family game, do you have 4 or 5 in your family that are playing games?
I don't know if you count the 4-year-old, so we'll go with 4.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a 4-player game and I think it's really good. So the reason why I invited Chad on was because Chad has, other than his huge affinity for Haldir, who he claims to be the most archerish of all the Lord of the Rings characters.
It's true.
He has
Amen, brother. Amen.
Chad has a love for another card in the game, and so I think it's important for us as Card Talk to bring on the experts when we talk about it, because God knows I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. So Chad, we brought you on because we wanted to talk about Rosie Cotton. So I think that's a good place to start. So, and one of the things that I also wanted to do was give the community a little bit of a surprise. So before we go on too far, I want to have that surprise come in here. So Chad, I don't know if you can see.
Yes.
Good morning.
You got me. I'm like, why? Why would you have me? Look, I brought this to the show. I'm like, this should be on the show. All right, I want to make sure I get it on the camera right.
Oh, I have the digital version of it, so.
Yeah, see, the side by side.
Oh, that's
awesome.
That's right, folks. live in person is Rosie Cotton.
It is
the one and only.
So
there is no limitations.
Oh, good.
So
I was actually complaining about it a little bit. I'm like, I know I talk about Rosie a lot, but there is somebody who's really should be on the show for Rosie. That's not me.
When you were complaining last night during the epic multiplayer, I found it so I was killing myself laughing.
Yeah, well, because I said I said, hey, I'm gonna be on Card Talk tomorrow, and I actually tried to get out of it a little bit because I'm like, you guys need to have Splice. Splice is the one who needs to be on. But then, what excuse could I give that I can't be on the show? We're under quarantine. I'm gonna do it, but I can't be like, oh no, we're going out, we're doing something, because I'm like, get Splice. All right, hey, Splice, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Oh, this is great. This is so funny. Good job, guys. Good job. Well done.
So to give the community just a little bit of background information, so Christian, who is on your screen right now as Rosie, is probably the community standard for who Rosie Cotton is. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, he, as you can tell by his cosplay, embodies everything that is Rosie Cotton. And then at the very first Con of the Rings, or was it Gen Con? Well, Christian, why don't you tell the story? So Christian is who we call Rosie Cotton, is also on the Cardboard of the Rings Discord server as Splice, and so who I got a chance to meet at Con of the Rings last year. But okay, so you and Chad tell the story of why you guys are on this show together.
Well, so it was Con of the Rings. Leading up to it, someone posted in the Discord channel, hey, we should do a cosplay contest or something. And somebody brought up, oh, we should, maybe we'll get to see Chad's Rosie Cotton cosplay. And, we can have a contest to see who wore it best. And to that, I immediately said, I'm in.
Challenge accepted.
and then Chad was like, oh, I'll buy you a drink or something if you actually do it. And as soon as somebody had posted it, I basically immediately after texted my stepmom to be like, look, I need some help making a costume for this Lord of the Rings thing I'm going to. I'm going to be a female hobbit. And she just texted back, I love it. What can I do? And so, I started shopping for wigs. We looked at patterns, tried to get everything in, and then, showed up the day one, full costume. Well, actually, so let's step it back. When the night before the con started, I was staying with John Peace and Thought, and we're in his house. And, I tested on the cosplay so everyone can see. Well, he just happens to have this gorgeous little archway in his house. And we're like, that matches the card pretty well. So we grabbed like a napkin and tried to do a picture in there because we were going to try to sneak the cards into Chad's deck the next day to see if he actually realized that it was Rosie. And so and then, day one of the con, Chad comes walking in, then there I am in full Rosie Cotton cosplay. And, I get in there and Chad presents me with my sword thane sword, making me a hero. And, that's kind of the start of it all. And, after the con, I basically, enough people saw Chad's cards that they were like, I want a copy of those. And so went and made alt-art cards for anyone who wanted them. And that's how the myth of Rosie Cotton got started.
And it's the two of you together that really make this pair happen. And so I was just thankful for this opportunity to arise. I hate the circumstance in which everybody has the opportunity to meet and get together because it's super stressful, but I'm very thankful for the opportunity to get the two Rosie Cotton lovers into the same space to discuss the card. So, and it was funny because I said to Chad, Chad, we have a surprise for the community. He's like, oh, it's this thing. And so Chad, Chris doesn't know about the other thing. So Chris knew about the one thing, you knew about the other thing, and it was like I'm playing both sides of I'm like burning the candle at both ends.
You did good because when you said we have a surprise, I'm like, you already told me. I know it's surprise for the community, but I know, and it reminds me of when we did the Treachery of Router quest on Cardboard of the Rings, where I had to pretend I knew nothing about it, even though I was one of the people that created it. Because I had to run the encounter deck, but I just had to pretend like I knew nothing. So I was playing like both sides. Like I had to have Brandon send me the file for the game that I created because I'm like, well, if you want me to run the encounter deck, Brandon, you have to send me the cards in the file. And I had sent it to him through a fake account. I mean, it's just like, So same thing. It's funny. It's funny when you're playing like multiple edges of a surprise.
And never get into a two-front war in Asia or something, right? So it was like it was one of these things that just came together so well, and I knew that I just wanted genuine reaction. So I actually met with Chris. I don't know, like we joined an hour ago, and we were talking and catching up, and we were like, "Hey, this is great," and then I was like, "Okay, jump off, and then we'll get Chad in," and Chad's like, "Oh, whatever." So, anyways.
Yeah, you did great.
It's a lot.
We got a super action pack. This is like our most packed episode ever, all surrounding Rosie Cotton.
I know.
It's,
Well,
it's
but
wonderful to have you guys.
right? If there was,
And
Right.
yeah, and Brosie, I gotta say, you know that your commitment to the cosplay is amazing, and I think it's the wig that really does it for me. Is the crowning piece, you know?
Well, the best part is it is a Boogie Babe wig. So you know,
But it's so fitting. It's well fitting, and you wear it well. I'll just say
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
I noticed you can't even see like all the rest of us. You can see there are headphones, and you can't even see his headphones. And so there's always a spot for you, Brosie, on Card Talk if you want to.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, you can always cosplay and record, and nobody will even know that you're listening.
Yeah, because my other cosplay didn't have a wig, so you know
the Bob
Rossiel. Now we got to figure out this year. Yeah, Bob Rossiel or Brosiel and Bob Rossiel. That's
right. Yeah, that's wild. But well, I'm glad that this worked out. But I mean, in the end, we're here because we all love, and I think actually for the first time in a long time, I can probably provide a little bit of good insight into Rosie Cotton. You know. As opposed to most of the really crappy advice that I give on the show, but I'll be able to add a little bit something because I too am a huge fan of Rosie Cotton. But I wanted to also give another surprise to the community, and it's fitting that Chad's on here because inspired by something to happen to them months ago, I also reached out to somebody to help me introduce the card. So. Sarah, if you could you introduce the card for us?
Hi, Dave. Hi, everybody else out there. I'm Sarah. I played Rosie Cotton in Lord of the Rings, and I just want to talk a little bit about the Rosie Cotton card. So, Rosie is a leadership ally and costs 2. She has 2 willpower, 0 defense, and 0 attack. But even without defense and without attack, it's the willpower. She adds the attribute of willpower to the Hobbit value card. So hope you enjoy playing this Lord of the Rings card game. I had a great time playing Rosie Cotton in Lord of the Rings, and I'm sure that you guys will enjoy sort of perpetuating the ongoing love that we all have for hobbits. Okay, guys, have a great time. Bye-bye.
That's awesome.
That was great.
That's awesome.
Great job.
Oh, super cool.
Very cool.
Okay, so Rosie Cotton. Who wants to go first and talk a little bit about her? I think the cosplay guy gets a little bit of precedence over the epic.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Such a gentleman here.
Okay, so Chris, what's your take on Rosie Cotton?
Well, you know, I mean, I think she's great, and the thing I love most about her is the versatility that she can bring to a Hobbit deck, right? So by being able to add the willpower to a stat of your choice, it can really help you in those rounds where, you know, you need a boost in extra attack, extra defense. You know, 2-for-2 questing is always worthwhile. So it's just nice that, you know, she can give that little boost to the hobbits who aren't necessarily the strongest in any of those departments to start off.
Yeah, I agree exactly with what you just said. And Chad, why don't you talk a little bit about Rosie? You can talk about Brosie or Rosie, whichever one you want.
I'm only looking at the Brosie card.
Okay.
I have
because it's foil and shiny.
It is. I love it. It's a foil. Yeah. Well, I guess one of the things I should say about Rosie Cotton, I have a lot of reasons why I like her, but one of the big reasons that I came out as the Rosie guy, whatever you want to say, is when this card was released, it was at Gen Con. I think it was, oh boy, I don't know which Gen Con it was. It might have been my first one.
Yeah, she's out of one of the saga boxes.
Right. She came in Mountain of Fire.
Yep.
And so it was whatever Gen Con that was. And none of the cards had been spoiled in that pack except for a few. But she definitely wasn't. And so Dave G got a hold of the box for me. Like, because he works at Gen Con. He works at one of the booths for Queen's Games. And so I was one of the first people to get the box. I ripped it open and I just started taking pictures as fast as I could of the cards and throwing them on Discord as fast. So I was the person who got to spoil Rosie to the community, which is pretty cool because we didn't know she was coming. And then as soon as I saw her and I read her ability, I was like, oh my gosh, if you put Sword Thane on her and boost her willpower, she can turn Sam into this crazy machine. And oh, it's the thought of her and like her, like the willpower is like spurring him on to do these great things. And I immediately just loved the theme. And I was a huge Hobbit player at the time, but this card was missing. And so I'm like, this is the piece. This is it. This is what the Hobbits need. So that's the reason for me, Rosie has always been just a huge card personally. Because, like I said, spoiled her and then quickly realized what I could do with her, and you can. So it means a lot to me, this card. I have a lot of good memories of this card, just even seeing it for the first time and playing with it.
It's a lot of sentimentality wrapped up into it, along with effective gameplay, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
When you play, Chad, I think when you came on the show to talk about Haldir, like I think that you mainly play for like card mechanics, like you. Not that you don't love the theme, but you would rather play mechanics and make sure you build a winning deck over the theme than, right? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, it's fun to build a thematic deck.
Right.
But when I sit down to play, I want the deck to work more than I want to say, look, I only used X types of allies. If I can make that work, great. But
right.
I want the deck to win.
This scratches that itch for both of those, though, right? That's
right.
I guess that's what I'm getting at is that, you know, like
it does.
For a guy who wants the mechanics and the deck to work and then have a Hobbit that does what it does, like that's
right.
That's really good. Grant, what do you think of Rosie? First impression.
She was definitely something that the Hobbits needed. Obviously, up to before we got to the sagas, Hobbits were very underdeveloped, and then they seemed to get, obviously, throughout the saga expansions, obviously they were more defined. And then this card came out, and it was like, well, now that just pumped them over to like dwarf level territory. Going from a standard archetype to then a powerful archetype that obviously is now the Hobbits, because you've got obviously Rosie, you've got Farmer Maggot, you've got Gaffer Gamgee, all of which enhance the ability of Hobbits and their functionality. And it just made sense. But when this first came out, that filled the need, as Chad said, for Hobbits to make them even more insane than what they were previously at.
Yeah. Ted, what's your gut on Rosie or Brosie, whichever?
What? Bike spokes. Just throw it in the trash.
Yeah. Right. Every card has a use except for her, right?
Every card's right except for Rosie.
Are you channeling your Ted Sandyman right now? Is that what you're doing?
Fantastic card. As Grant said, Hobbits were a little underdeveloped. You know, I remember back in like the third cycle when Spirit Pippin came out, and it said, you know, if all of your heroes are hobbits, right? And that like that's sort of these Hobbit cards started to come out. They had Hobbit Sense, and then we already had Bilbo and Frodo, right? You know, so it was like, okay, this is going to become, Fast Hitch. This is going to be a thing, but it's taken years, like towards the end of the game, to actually get developed into a fully playable strategy, which is fantastic. And
the giant slow roll.
But she's such a key piece. And she's good even outside of Hobbit decks. You know, even if you're building a Fellowship deck, she's an inexpensive, unique ally. And as everyone said, she's got 2 willpower and 2 hit points. So a one of an elite in a deck with any leadership hero is fine. And you really just need, you know, one, and then one Hobbit really strengthens her a lot. You know, you just need one Hobbit to make her function. Right. And has
to be a Hobbit hero. She can't target Hobbit allies. So that's got to be. I mean, it is a clarification, but
she works well with just about any of them. Being able to boost defenses for even like Spirit Frodo, or hell, if you want to go old school and make Lore Bilbo a defender. You know, like You boost him
That's
up with
crazy
some stuff,
talk.
including- Yeah, you know,
That's
like you
crazy
can just
talk.
kind of, so much versatility. It's so fun.
Yeah, I'll say this and lead into some of the stuff for Chad and Rosie Cotton over there, but you know, it wasn't until I really sat down and looked at why Chad really liked to sword thane Rosie. Like on first glance, you're like, you get 2, but there's so many attachments that can boost her willpower.
There are.
And then as a hero, there's not as many that can do it as an ally. So
No.
by sword theining the ally and making her a hero, it's not like you're doing much except allowing her to have all these attachments and things that can target her as a hero and boost her willpower.
Exactly.
And so, Chad, can you talk a little bit about that strategy and what that happens and how that works when you're doing stuff?
Yeah, so Sword Thane costs 4, it's neutral. And you might say, well, that's pretty expensive just to get a card ready to do stuff. Like you said, it's not actually doing anything itself. But Sword Thane generates a resource every round once it's on. So you are kind of paying for it over the next few turns. And if you're playing hobbits, you are probably in secrecy, which probably means you have resourceful. So you should be generating at least 4 resources a round. And if you're playing Saga, you have Frodo, which is 4 heroes. So you are definitely generating 4 resources around. So it's really just a one-turn play that starts to pay for itself. And then there's a lot of great leadership, willpower boosting cards, Celebrian Stone, Song of Hope. And then when Fireside Song came out, it's like, oh, forget about it. Because now you not only are generating resources on a card with Fireside Song, the songs are resource smoothing. So Rosie can help pay for anything because you're putting all these different songs, Song of Wisdom, Song of Travel. So now she can help smooth your deck. Song of Hope is great. So I have got, well, does anyone want to take a guess? I have kept track of the highest amount of willpower I have gotten her up to. Does anyone want to take a guess?
Are we gonna do Price's Right rules where we have to bid under without going over?
Now,
Yes.
Is that
Okay.
per one? Like Song of Hope is a temporary boost. So is that just like one
Right.
round, and then you can
Yeah,
put like
so-
Protector of Lorien on her and discard cards. So that's 6, and then
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
let's just say I used her ability and boosted Sam by how much?
can we discuss it
Okay.
before we do
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say that there's 3 for the Song of Hope because that is limited to 3. And I don't know. I've never seen Chad run Protective Lorien on Rosie, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't have at some point. And that would be
Yeah.
another 3, and that's without
then
Celebrian Stone, which is 2
Which is
more.
2. And then isn't there like the Dunedain quest that adds
Oh,
1?
yeah.
That
Right.
Yeah, you
That
have that
would do
and or Favor of the Lady are
Right.
both 1.
Favor of the Lady.
Uh,
Can Favor of the Lady go on her with is it a
Yeah.
hero or is it a
yeah, it's a hero. It's
right?
attached
Like
to a hero.
okay, I guess it's
And
the
just a
circlet that
+1.
can only go on the spirit hero.
Right. It's the same as the Dunedain quest. It's just 2 spirit instead of 2
Leadership.
leadership.
Yeah,
Right.
potentially 1 more from Faramir if you're running leadership too.
Oh man, and then
So
I mean, it sounds
Well,
like
well-
you can get up to like 20 or so. I'm not
I'll,
keeping track here. I'll keep track.
That-
I'll keep
yeah,
Then you've
I'll-
got like 4
12,
from
14,
then you got
16.
then you've got like 4 from Galadriel
Yeah.
if he's running out with Galadriel.
Oh jeez.
The-
And then all
uh,
the fireside, and then he said Fireside Song, so that's plus for each
I'll,
song that's on there.
I'll make my bid
Okay.
for 11.
11. I think I saw him post that recently that he was up to plus 11, but I feel like there's got to be
I'll guess 18.
18. Grant,
I'm going 20.
11, 18, 20. I don't think Chad. I think Chad has to do other things in his deck other than just.
Nope.
Just
boost.
one
No.
Right. All of a sudden he's becoming C-Stamp.
Oh, willpower.
His
Rosie's
whole-
a real
right,
one-trick pony.
right. Well, if he puts a whole bunch of unexpected courages on her and then fast hitches on the hobbits, then he's got everything taken care of. I'm gonna go
That's true.
I'm gonna go in between Ted and Chris, and I'm gonna say 15.
It is in between Rosie and Grant at 19.
Oh,
So I guess according to Price's Right rules, 18 gets the win.
Yep.
Well, leave it to the guy in cosplay to know how to.
Now, a couple of cards you didn't mention are the fellowship cards, because, like I said, if you run it with Frodo,
Frodo's
you got
intuition, right?
the Fellowship of the Ring adds 1 to every hero, and then
Friend of friends.
Yep, friend of friends, and then Frodo's intuition.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a quick way when you're, because the deck I'm probably the most famous for is my Ring Around the Rosie deck,
Right?
where because the Fellowship cards really help boost her willpower quickly. And
Right, and plus it gives you all that awesome card draw, like
Yep.
At least Frodo's intuition does.
Right. I have never. You're right, Dave. I've never used Protector of Lorien on her, mainly because, as I think Ted was saying, I don't need to. It's like, or whichever one of you said, I need my deck to do other things. There's only Dave. There's only so much willpower boosting you actually need.
Yeah.
Like if you could boost Sam's defense by 6, and he's already got a Hobbit cloak, it's like, okay, well he's defending for 10. That's good.
Well, that's
or he's attacking for 8.
If you're getting attacked for 11, you've got bigger problems.
Exactly. Yeah. That's when you need Haldir to come in and defend for you, right, Dave?
right. Yeah, right. If Haldir, if you can just Haldir,
Problems of the big folk.
right? I will say that I'm running Tom Cotton in a deck that I just posted it, and like Tom Cotton can be a beast, and he's good target to have Rosie boost.
Mm-hmm.
He's 3/3, right? 3 defense, 3 hit points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then with all that other junk that you can put on him, like I was playing City Volfest, and I was able to just like not care about the City Guard. I think at one point the City Guard had -5 engagement. Not that you can go negative with your things, but it had 10 resource tokens on it, and I was like, Tom Cotton was defending it every turn for no damage.
Yep.
So it made it good.
And then it'll be interesting with the new Messenger of the King contract.
Yeah.
You can have her right at the beginning.
Yeah,
So you don't even have to spend the 4 to get her in play.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I know that Chad, you have played with the Messenger of the King contract.
Yep.
That was one of like the first things that you did. But Chris, what's your breakdown on the beauty of Rosie Cotton and all of this Messenger of the King and sword theining and stuff like that?
Well, so I think on top of all the getting her as a hero, the key benefit of making her a hero as well is just getting access to like the fast hitches. So being able to get those extra readies is pretty crucial to allow her to use you can commit her to the quest, use her ability to add the willpower during the different phases. And that's where I think it's almost as important as getting the willpower boosting. And I haven't experimented with Messenger of the King yet. It'll be interesting losing the one hero to replace it with her to start with. But I think Chad might have better. He's experimented with it, so he might have better insight into how that contract works with her. But I think it could be good.
Well, just to make sure I understood what you said, you can put fast hitch on a Hobbit character.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yep.
It's unexpected courage that has to go on hero.
Courage, right.
But you can, once she's a hero, you can use the fast hitch you put on her to boost herself. Because it just says she selects a Hobbit hero, not a different Hobbit hero, just a Hobbit hero. So if she has a fast hitch on her and she's a hero, you can commit her to the quest, ready her with the fast hitch, and then commit her to the quest boosting herself.
So
That's a neat
you're
trick.
using one character to get up to 20.
So if you have 2 fast hitches on her and another Hobbit, you only need to commit. This is what I would do a lot. I would commit her to the quest, ready her, boost herself, so she alone is questing for like an insane amount, like you just said, 20, and then ready her again, and then she boosts your other Hobbit's stat during combat, whichever one you need, defense or attack. And so only 2 fast hitches on her gets you 1 character questing for enough to cover the entire staging area, and then 1 stat to be boosted to handle any enemy. Just with 2 fast hitches.
What's the rest of the lineup with that deck? Is it like Falco and Sam, or Mary and someone?
You can go
Does
nuts.
it matter?
Yeah, you can go nuts. It's like you build your deck saying, I want my other 2 heroes to handle this. So maybe I want my other 2 heroes to be the attackers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I'm sorry, you want 1 hero to be the attacker. So let's just say it's I don't know, Aragorn. Aragorn's going to be killing things. So then you put the second Hobbit in besides Rosie that's going to, I'm talking Messenger of the King. You put the other Hobbit in, that's going to be your defender. So Tom Cotton, like Dave was saying. So it's like Rosie's going to boost Tom, Tom's going to defend, my other hero's going to kill, Rosie's going to quest all by herself, and all the other cards just help me get there. And so you put Baragon in, and you're like, okay, Rosie's going to help the Hobbit kill, and Baragon's going to defend for me. So you only need to worry about one or the other. It's fun. You can deck build like crazy with this Messenger of the King.
Yeah.
You can use Leadership Frodo to give her an extra use if you want with Messenger of the King. Yep. Just right off the bat, pay a resource. Get 2 more willpower. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to build that deck. That's very cool.
Let's before we get, well, maybe we already are too far down the rabbit hole, but let's back out of the rabbit hole a little bit.
Hole, I'll tell you that.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about usage of her. Now, my opinion is that if you're building a Hobbit deck, regardless of all her boosts you can give her and Sword Thane and all this stuff, like if you're playing a Hobbit deck, which I mean 3 Hobbit heroes, and as long as you have access to leadership, I mean, I can't see a case where you don't include her in a deck, regardless of anything that you're putting on her, right? Like, I mean, it's like in general. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay. And I would even say it's even beyond Hobbit decks. If you just have a lot of leadership, as Ted said, that the 2 for 2 willpower with 2 hit points is value no matter what type of. As long as you got leadership and nobody else is using Rosie, it's a value ally to have.
And Rosie can boost Hobbits that other people control too, right? So if you're playing in a Fellowship, right, you can and you're not playing. So, I mean, so there's it's a hard pill to swallow to not play Rosie in a lot of different decks and scenarios. But let's see. So the question that I have, and this came up as I was building my latest Hobbit deck, is how many times do you really need her to ready? Like if you put in too many fast hitches or unexpected courages, if she's a hero or whatever, is there,
how much is too much?
Yeah, because you can only use her a couple of times, right? Because it's only once per phase you can use her.
Right. You just need 2.
And so
just 2.
Yeah.
Because she can quest, and then you can ready, and then you can boost, and then ready, and then boost during combat phase. So
that's it. Yep.
So, I mean, if you're putting any more than 2 fast hitches on her, then that's probably a waste of the attachment.
I think that depends on the quest. I mean, if you've got a quest that says the enemy makes an immediate attack when it engages, you've also got an attack in the engagement phase that you could use to boost. So I think that where your knowledge of the quests come down to say, well, is it worth us putting a 3rd fast hitch on Rosie, or do I put it on, say, Sam to get an extra action for his attack? It all depends on the knowledge of the quest and what's coming.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that there's a sweet spot in there too. I think if you put 1 fast hitch on her, I think you're probably doing pretty good, depending on who else you're running with, because you may have better targets for fast hitch. I guess the most that you want to put her on is 2, but I feel like 1 is always going to get used, and then the second one would be kind of gravy.
Right. The way the math works is if you have another Hobbit hero that you're planning on her boosting, you only need 2, because like you said, 1 boost in quest phase, and then she boosts that Hobbit for the rest of the entire combat phase. But if you're doing the trick where she's boosting herself, so she's going to boost herself in combat to give herself like a big defense boost, then you'd want more readies on her, because you'd want her to be able to defend all the enemies that you're engaged with. But if you have another Hobbit, you want to put the extra readies on that Hobbit, because she'll boost Sam and then he'll defend everything. But Sam is great because, as we all know, he gets a ready when you engage the enemy. So that already saves you already. So two if you have another Hobbit that you're planning on boosting, and more than 2 if she's the one that's boosting herself.
This is crazy. So let's go down the rabbit hole a little bit differently, and I'll start with Grant. So when you have Rosie in a deck, like what what else are you running with Rosie in the deck to protect her? Or like, I know that there's kind of the typical Black Riders Hobbit deck with those guys, but like, what are you doing to help protect her? She has 2 hit points, which is decent, but if she goes away, that's scary. So,
well, it all depends on the deck I'm running. I mean, if I'm running a focus on Rosie, then I'll have obviously ways of like the honor guard to cancel direct damage or other cards to stop attacks. But generally speaking, I don't just focus on the one card. I'll have multiple. Like, I won't set out and say, well, this is what this deck's going to do. I'll have multiple ways of doing what I want to do with that deck. So I don't just build a one focus deck. I'll have my deck cover questing, attack, defense, healing if needed.
right.
I don't just like singling out like one avenue for the deck unless I'm building a fellowship where I know both decks can handle what they need to handle.
Yeah, I found that the Warden of Healing is good to work with Rosie, just
definitely.
because it's. But I mean, that's good. I guess it just depends on what you're building. But Ted, what's your thoughts on what you build to help smooth over the Rosie thing, make it better?
Well, yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, a lot of the decks with her, a lot of decks run Sam. So, and then with Sam comes Bill the Pony, who I also very badly want to Sword Thane just because.
You can't Sword Thane Bill the Pony. He can't have attachments.
And okay, no, I want to Messenger of the King him. That's what I want to do, and make him Bill.
Can you
Bill the hero?
Can you Messenger the King him?
No, that's an
Right.
attachment.
It's still an attachment. Yeah,
He's just immune.
he just
All right.
can't do it.
Scratch those thoughts.
Well, I mean,
but
it is a
usually-
cooperative game, so you can do whatever you want, Ted.
Yeah.
At Con of the Rings in October, I can't wait to see your Messenger of the King Bill the Pony deck.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
I mean, you do have Arwen and Barwin on this podcast right now. That's,
Yeah, right.
Christian and I are responsible for the Arwen Barwin.
Okay, so if I need you back in another year and a half, Chad, and I ask you, I have a surprise for the community, you'll know what it is, I guess. Oh, well.
Yeah. But you have so usually you're running Sam. With Sam comes Bill, and Bill boosts all Hobbits' hit points.
Right.
So she's got an extra hit point most of the time. And then you're probably running lower in most decks because you need access to fast hitches. So you are going to be running either, like you said, Warden of Healing or Yorith, you know, so you get some form of healing, an extra hit point from Bill. That's usually enough.
Yeah. What else are you running, Chris, with your decks that have Rosie in it?
Let's see. I mean, we've kind of hit a lot of the big
Sure.
pieces. As a lot of people are saying, luckily when it comes to damage with her, it's normally just like you have to worry about the chip damage. It's not, I'm not typically defending and getting these big hits with her. It's like, a point to all questing characters or so.
Right.
So another one can be, I'm blanking, the Dunedain Remedy, I think. So that, it's how, since you already have access to leadership, you can kind of pass it around your Hobbit heroes to heal off that one here and there if you want to give, the Warden a break. Since he gets used so much.
He's an old man.
But beyond that, it's like the thing I like most of is you don't have to really super focus her. She just adds a lot of
Versatility.
versatility and like interesting. Once you get one fast hitch or any ready, you get to decide, okay, do I use it questing this turn or do I save it for the defense? So it's, then even as in just a straight ally, you get some interesting decisions. You don't have to build a lot around her to make her useful. It's just, she just brings so much to the table. So other things that I bring, it's just kind of typical Hobbit stuff, not much more focused on her because she just adds more value to the deck.
Yeah. I found that as the game has expanded, there's a lot less room in a Hobbit deck for those things that the Black Riders made the Hobbit deck out of. I didn't say that well, but like there was the Black Riders Hobbit deck, and then you would put like Elfstone and things like that in it to bring out some bigger, badder things. But I feel like now with the release of a lot of these cards, there's less need for those things because of the quality of the cards that have been released. That the Bywater Sheriff is amazing. Odo Proudfoot is really good. Farmer Maggot, like all these cards kind of take the place of those big bad things that you need to get out, and then Rosie can help all of those heroes on top of that. It's just
there's such a fun archetype to play. Like the archetype is strong and fun and thematic, so it hits everywhere. Those decks are usually just they're satisfying to play because they hit on everything.
Yeah. Let me ask one more question, and I'm gonna ask Chad this question. But everybody, I'm gonna ask everybody's opinion on this. And Chad, I'm asking you specifically first. And so I get that Rosie is versatile. She can add her willpower to any stat of other hobbits. I mean, that's great. But there is another hero that you can add a stat to another hero's stat. And so that's Nori. And I bring Nori up to you because, as you know, Aaron Fishbaugh is a huge fan of
Dory? We're talking about Dory?
Sorry, Tactics Dory.
Okay.
Right. Sorry, is a big fan of Tactics Dory, which allows you to add its defense, Nori's defense, to another hero or character's defense. I guess I can pull it up right here, but to defending hero's defense. All like mechanics aside, like why is Dory so, I don't know, shunned? Because that's still throwing a stat someplace,
right?
As compared so much to Rosie. I mean, I kind of know the answer, but like Rosie does, I don't know, kind of the same thing. It's a little more limited with Dory, but like, do you see what I'm trying to get at here?
Yes. So
yeah, okay.
Dory, you only can trigger you only can trigger as a response to the character defending,
yes,
I believe.
So it's another hero is declared as a defending.
Right. So Rosie lets you decide if you need to use her willpower boost after the shadow card's been revealed, where Dory, you have to make a guess if you're going to need it. Now, if you build the deck where you're like, okay, I want Dory's 2 defense always to be boosting this other hero's defense. The reason I don't like it is you're exhausting Dory to help with defense for another hero that is using his defense. So they're both 2 defensive heroes. Right. So that means your other hero has to handle questing and attacking, where Rosie can boost any hero's stat. So you can use her to boost whichever hero you need. So Dory to me just seems like he's just an attachment. He's a +2 defense attachment for a hero that's already defending.
The conquest for 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, wait. So, Chad, based off of what you just said earlier, you could play Dory with another defender and Rosie with Messenger of the King, and just use her to boost herself for questing and attacking, and then your other 2 heroes got the defense covered.
Okay, in that scenario, who's doing the most work?
Dory?
No!
Keeping everybody safe?
Rosie's doing the most work. So therefore, to answer Dave's question, in that scenario, Rosie would be better because she's doing 2 aspects of the game, whereas Dory's only helping with 1.
And I'm not. Let me say this. I've said some stupid things, but I'm not arguing that Rosie is less effective than Dory. That's not my thing. But what I am suggesting is that there's cards that do analogous things, and I think it's important for people to understand why Rosie is better than maybe Dory in this case. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Being able to boost any stat, and so it all comes down to efficiency. So if you're spending money in cards to boost her willpower, and then that willpower can boost any stat, versus Dory, where you're spending money and cards to boost his defense, which only boosts defense. You're not getting as much value. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Is there a way that you can use Dory to boost himself?
I've never played Dory. I have no idea.
You heard it here, folks.
I've only ever made fun.
Chad hates Aaron Fishbaugh. You heard it here, guys. I'm just kidding.
Well, we did a Dory episode with Aaron, but I don't know if we touched on that. I don't know if that came up at all.
I mean, there's got to be a way that you can.
I don't
there's
think
no
you can.
because you can't ready. I can't ready him unless there's hero doesn't exhaust to defend attachment. But I don't know. Anyways, so Ted, what's your take on this whole boost to using some sort of character to boost another character, like why Rosie is so much better? I don't even know if there's other characters that come to mind that do this sort of thing.
Well, any post stats, any action ability to boost stats is quite powerful. Cards like Galadriel with Nenya, Spirit Eowyn's ability, Elrond's Council,
Ally Faramir,
because those can be used after the fact, as Chad had pointed out, and that's just immensely powerful. It's like, okay, we didn't quest for enough. I need to add 2 extra willpower, or 4 extra willpower. Oh, a shadow card, or a shadow card that boosts the enemy's defense. Oh, now I need extra attack to kill that enemy. And any cards that do that are just they're just good. And then the fact that you have it in an ally ability, it's just there all the time. It's not like you have to like once you put it on the table, it's just kind of there, assuming she doesn't take damage and get killed,
right,
or discarded through a treachery effect. So it's immensely powerful against any quest in pretty much any circumstance.
To talk about what Chad said, he said that Dory's kind of like an attachment, and so so is Rosie, but she's like 4 attachments.
Yeah,
because she can attach to herself, and then she can use all 3 stats and attach to whatever.
Right, which goes back to spending the money. You're spending the same amount of money for 4 attachments as you would for Dory as just 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Just as a quick side note, I've just looked it up, and you can't trigger Dory's ability to target himself. He does state after another hero is declared as a defender.
You can't, right. It does say another hero, right? So read the cards, idiot. See, this is why I'm not very good at this game. This is why my win percentage is so high. I just never read the cards very well.
I think if you were going to compare Rosie to a card that does something similar, I would say the Leia Nimmerdell, which is the spirit. That's an event, I believe. If I'm saying the right card. The one where you spend a bunch of resources off a spirit hero to boost willpower. Because
you spend 1 resource. So
go ahead, Christian.
So when you play the event, you get a willpower boost for each resource the hero has. So it's a cost of 1, I believe, and then the more resources you have, the more willpower boost you get.
And so that's a card where you spend a bunch of time trying to build up resources on a spirit hero just to play this one event. And the reason that's good, it's only willpower, but for Mount Doom, for example, and anything that involves a willpower type hide test, whatever those tests are called, where you have to use willpower. That
Fortitude?
Yeah. Fortitude, yeah. That card kind of reminds me of Rosie, how you put that card in your deck because you want to do this big push with a 1 stat, and you're trying to build that 1 stat up really big. And that's quest specific, of course, but that's a better comparison to me as far as like the utility of Rosie and another card.
Yeah, well, and plus I just wanted to make sure that I got a chance to give Aaron a little bit of a, zinger here. He was a guest on the show a couple months ago, so Aaron, we love you, buddy. Thank you for talking about Dory. So Grant, do you have anything to add to the boosting stats conversation here that we're having?
No, I think everything's been covered.
Yeah, I think we can put her through the ringer.
Okay, so I don't know. It's been a while for probably Chad and everybody else here, and Christian, you're this is the first time you've been on the show, so
It is.
So for anybody who doesn't know or has forgotten, we like to rate the cards on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, and 10 is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it came. So we'll just let the guests choose. So there's 5 of us on the show. Wow. Whoa, 5 of us on the show. That's a new record.
That's what I was
here.
saying. We got this is like the most packed episode we ever had.
I know.
As far as guests and cameos, and it's all rolled into a fantastic card on top of it. So
I know.
it's amazing.
It's going to be an amazing show. So, Christian, since you've been on the show the least, I'll let you pick. Do you want to go first, second, third, fourth, or fifth in terms of your ranking? When you give yours,
I'll go third, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Okay, Chad, and you get to pick. When do you want to go? First, second, fourth, or fifth?
I'll go first so I don't forget.
Or so we don't. I think when we did Haldir, it got cut. The end, it got cut off. Something happened, and I had to say, "Oh," but I'm assured this isn't going to happen this time. So, okay, so Chad first. What's your ranking on a scale from 1 to 10?
All right, so 1 is the card to rule them all, right?
Correct.
All right, so I will give her, just because I understand how you do this. So I gave Haldir a 1.
Right.
And so I feel like I have to give her a 9.9. Wait, I did that wrong.
What?
1. I always think 10 is the best.
No.
I'm going to give her
point
just like 1. Yeah.
Or
yeah, like
1.1. She's just slightly
1.1?
below or slightly
just
above.
slightly below a
2.
1.
Okay.
So 1.1. That
Okay.
doesn't sound as good as
Yeah.
9.9.
Yeah.
I
was like,
I'm like,
Brock.
Whoa, Chad, you just went the other end. For
Yeah.
this.
In my head, I'm always thinking 10 is the best. Like,
Right.
you're a 10. You know what I mean? A 10. A 10.
Oh,
so,
thank you. I'm a 10.
Brock,
yes, exactly. See?
Brock
10.
Iron Fist was a unanimous 10. So you're saying that Rosie is
Okay.
just slightly better than Brock Iron Fist.
Right. No. Okay. So, all right. Let me back up. Let me do that again.
Okay.
All right. So, if Haldir was a 1, then I'll give her a 1.1 because just slightly worse.
Grant,
Then Haldir.
what's my problem with this? I hate decimal ratings. It's like either commit to the 1 or go to a 2. No 1.1. It throws
All
our
right.
averages off. I'll
give her a 2.
You can do whatever you
I'll
want.
give her a 2. I'll go 1 step, whatever I'm allowed to do as far as stepping down. So I'll go down 1 step. So that's a 2. And the reason I'm giving her a 2 is only because she's not a hero. So you do have to go that extra step to get her where I like her to be. So if she was a hero with this ability, it would be a 1 because then you could just right from the get-go, you could just start doing all this stuff. But since she's not a hero, you do either have to give her the Messenger of the King, which means then something else is not the Messenger of the King and you can't play with a different hero, or Sword Thane, which is an extra step. So I'll give her a 2, and Haldir is my 1.
Haldir is your 1. Chad, and I'm just joking around with you, but you can do whatever you want, man.
I want to stick to the rules.
There's no card talk. Well, Grant rated something like 2i plus 3 once or something, like some imaginary number that I don't know. It's like whatever.
It was only imaginary to you when it was like, I think it was a 1.5 on Glorfindel.
Yeah, I don't know. So, well, Grant, do you want to go next?
I suppose I can.
Okay.
I'm going to rate Rosie and Brosie a 2.
Okay.
As Chad said, they are phenomenal, and the only thing that brings them down is the fact that they're not a hero to begin with.
Couldn't agree more, Grant.
Oh boy, this is where I can already sense that this is going to get tough. Okay, then, Chris, what's your sense on? I mean, you dress like her, so I mean, this is gonna. I can sense where this may go.
Well, so I would say, I was actually between 2 and a 3. Standalone, I would say she's closer to the 3 because she is dependent on, being in for a full Hobbit entourage, and she does require a lot to go around her to really get her up to that power value. So I'll stick with a 3, even though I dress like her, just to be different.
Okay, Ted, I'll let you go. So we have a 1, 2, and a 3 so far.
Okay,
Well, we have Chad's rating, which is either a 1, 2.
Put me down as a 2, Dave.
Okay.
I already have, buddy. I already have.
Grant keeps track of all of it, so.
Okay, hobbits really like to eat, so I'm gonna rate her up. She's pie.
3.1415926. If we had C-Stan on the show, right, Chris, he could quote that all the way out to like 100 places.
But that's closest to a 3. She's wonderful. Like I said, she goes in even non-Hobbit decks. She can be included in just because of her willpower. She certainly functions much better in Hobbit decks because of her ability, obviously. But very, very few reasons not to include her. And even with single cards, she becomes good. Right, like one fast hitch, one valiant. I think it's valiant determination. Right. It's the spirit attachment. That's an ally. Yeah, like even just that, like one of those cards pays for itself with her to get her ability or extra willpower, whatever. So, it's all good.
Yeah, and so I'm last, and I'm gonna stick with a 3, and I think Chris, you touched on it a little bit. Is that it's kind of a limiting in terms of the deck. Like she shines in a Hobbit deck, no joke. And so if this were how is Rosie rated in a Hobbit deck, she would be a 1 hands down. But I think that when you just rate her against all the cards in the card pool, I think that she settles down a little bit. But on top of that, she's just really fun to play. I find her just a lot of fun to play, and then and it's really easy to get her going. In terms of like you put her out and she's already ready, so it makes it just makes it really a fun card to play, and so. I don't know.
So, be careful, she'll get out the fast hitches.
I know, like fast hitch with Sam, and all of a sudden things go wild, right?
Rosie, Dave just called you easy. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I'm flexible. I'm not out of offended.
No, mind you guys are sweet talking.
This isn't card talk after dark, guys.
I know, right?
Oh, my bad.
That's okay. We can say a couple of things. So, but so I'm gonna stick with a 3, and mainly because she really sings in a Hobbit deck, even though she's a decent ally otherwise. Kind of like the Nath Guide is for Sylvans. You can play the Nath Guide in other decks, but then the Nath Guide really sings in the Sylvan deck. So I think that's where I fall with Rosie Cotton. Well, Chris and Chad, it's been amazing to have you guys on, all talking about the Rosie Cotton card.
And Sarah.
Oh, and don't forget Sarah, who came on and recorded the intro for the card. That was just amazing. It's always great to have guests on the show, but then when those guests are really passionate about the card, I think that also really helps talk about it. So so thanks guys for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for having me on, Dave. This is always a pleasure. You guys are doing really well with this show. Like it's really fine-tuned and fun to listen to, and I do like that you don't just always pick great cards. Like you pick the cards where you're like, this card exists and it's in the card pool. Let's talk about it. And Ted, that's your schlick there is saying why every card deserves a spot in your collection, almost. And
except for Rosie, yeah, she can. I've quarantined her. I've quarantined her in my binder.
No, but thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. This has been really fun.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you guys coming on. It's all about the community, and definitely you guys are part of the community, and it's just what you guys do for the community. Obviously, is amazing. So we're honored to have you guys on. So Well, guys, that is a wrap. That's that's our show about Rosie Cotton. So join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day, everybody. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself, or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.